She accidentally slept on single dad's shoulder. What happened mid-flight left her speechless. The moment her head fell against his shoulder, everything changed, though neither of them realized it yet. 30,000 feet above the ground, in a cramped economy class seat, two lives that had never been meant to cross collided in the quietest, most human way possible. Outside the airplane window, the air stretched endlessly, but inside that narrow row, a single dad carrying invisible weight and a powerful ear running from her own exhaustion were about to face truths they had both been avoiding. Before the story pulls you deeper, pause for a second. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that even strangers can change each other's lives, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Ethan had boarded the flight with tired eyes and a heart heavier than his carry-on bag. He was single father to a 7-year-old boy waiting back home with his sister, and this trip was not for pleasure. He was flying overnight to attend a final interview for warehouse supervisor position, a job that could finally stabilize their fragile life. Every dollar mattered. That was Ella. He sat in economy, knees pressed uncomfortably forward, hands raw from years of labor resting quietly on his lap. Sleep had become a luxury he could no longer afford, yet exhaustion clung to him like second skin. The woman who took the seat beside him arrived last, moving quickly, clearly irritated Ella at the tight space and the inconvenience of it all. She wore simple clothes, but there was an unmistakable air of authority around her, the kind that came from years of being listened to without question. Clara was the leader of a multinational tech company, a woman who managed billions, negotiated mergers, and commanded boardrooms. Yet none of that mattered here. On this flight, she was just another passenger, running on caffeine, stress, and calendar packed so tightly that her own life barely fit inside it. As the plane leveled off and cabin lights dimmed, silence settled in. Ethan stared ahead, replaying memories of his late wife, the hospital room, the promises he had made to keep going no matter how hard things became. Clara tried to work, eyes scanning reports on her tablet, but the words blurred together. For the first time in months, no assistant interrupted her, no phone rang, no meeting demanded her attention. Her body, finally sensing permission to stop, gave in before her mind could protest. That was when it happened. Slowly, unintentionally, her head tilted and rested against Ethan's shoulder. Ethan froze. His first instinct was panic, worried he had done something wrong, simply existing. He sat perfectly still, afraid to move, afraid to breathe too deeply. Clara slept, unaware, her carefully controlled world momentarily surrendered to exhaustion. The weight of her head was light, but the moment felt heavy with something deeper, something fragile and unexpected. Minutes passed. Maybe longer. Ethan felt the steady rattle of her breathing, and something inside him softened. He thought about how tired people often went unnoticed, how strength was assumed rather than understood. He did not pull away. He did not shift. He let her rest because he knew what it meant to be carrying more than anyone could see. Mid-flight turbulence struck without warning. The plane jolted, trays rattled, and Clara woke suddenly, lifting her head in confusion. Reality rushed back to her all at once. She realized where she was, what had happened, and embarrassment flushed through her. She turned to apologize, already bracing for discomfort or judgment, but what she saw stopped her completely. Ethan was still, calm, eyes closed, his face etched with exhaustion far deeper than her own. In that instant, Clara noticed everything she had missed before. The worn jacket. The calloused hands. The faint crease between his brows that spoke of worry. He never sat down. This was not a man inconvenienced her mistake. This was a man who had quietly carried it without complaint. Something inside her shifted, the turbulence passed, but the moment lingered. Clara found herself unable to return to her work. Her thoughts drifted instead to how rare it was for anyone to offer comfort without expecting something in return. She had built her life on control, on power, on distance. Yet here, in an economy seat beside a stranger, she had been reminded of a different kind of strength. As the flight continued, subtle changes unfolded. Ethan eventually slept, his head leaning back, shoulders sagging under years of responsibility. Clara watched him briefly, not with curiosity, but with respect. For the first time in a long while, she questioned the pace of her own life, the cost of always being in charge, and the emptiness that success could not fill. When the plane began its descent, reality returned. The cabin lights brightened and passengers stared. Clara straightened, preparing to step back into her world of meetings and expectations. Yet she felt different, quieter inside. She did not know Ethan's full story, but she recognized struggle when she saw it, and she understood, perhaps for the first time, that compassion did not weaken power. It gave it meaning. After landing, as everyone stood to retrieve their bags, Clara noticed Ethan hesitate, checking his phone with anxious focus. A photo of a smiling child flashed briefly on the screen. That image stayed with her as they walked toward the exit, disappearing into separate paths. But some moments do not end when people part ways. Weeks later, as Clara reviewed hiring initiatives aimed at expanding fair employment opportunities, she remembered the man on the plane. She pushed for programs that valued character as much as credentials, resilience as much as resumes. Somewhere down the line, one application crossed her desk that felt familiar. A single father. Years of hard work. A quiet determination that refused to quit, and for Ethan, that interview he had flown out for changed everything. The job offer came through, better than he had dared hope. Stability returned slowly, then all at once. He never knew why the decision tipped in his favor. He only knew that someone, somewhere, had seen him. Just before this story ends, take a moment to comment below with one word that describes how this story made you feel. Your words matter more than you think. In a world obsessed with titles and status, it was a simple act of human kindness, 30,000 feet in the air, that left powerfully speechless and reminded a struggling father that he was not invisible. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who believes in humanity, and subscribe to the channel. Sometimes, the smallest moments carry the greatest power, and sometimes, all it takes to change life is the courage to be gentle.